Hello, everybody. JC3 here. Quick heads up. This episode turned into something bigger than what we expected. We started talking about crisis apparitions and somehow ended up debating free will, Catholicism, and the authority of Scripture. So this is part one. Next week, we go even deeper.
What if someone can reach out to you at the exact moment they die? Not through a phone call, not through a dream, but standing right in front of you. Tonight, we're diving into one of the eeriest and most emotional phenomena ever reported: crisis apparitions. This isn't about haunted houses, demonic entities, or urban legends. This is about moments when people claim they saw a loved one, sometimes miles away, at the exact time that person died. I'm JC3, and in the booth, I have Big Joe. Big Joe, say hello.
Hello, Big Joe.
And for the first time this season, the first time in a while, we have the newly Gonzalez's, Isaiah and Teresa Gonzalez.
Hi.
Hello.
The first time as the Gonzalez's on the podcast.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
Welcome, Gonzalez family. And real quick, how do you guys feel post-marriage? First time being on the podcast post-marriage.
Pretty chill. Florida was awesome.
Yeah, it
The
was
wedding was
fantastic.
awesome.
Everything was beautiful.
And
great.
testicle.
Yep.
Mhm.
All right, let's get into this, guys. So let me start with a question for everyone in the booth. Is this real in a while? We start with questions and then dive into the subject firsthand. Have you ever had
don't think I've ever
something
talked
like
about it.
this happen? Like seeing or feeling someone right before you found out they were gone?
Yes.
All right, explain.
Aunt Ginny.
Really?
Mhm.
Aunt Ginny?
The morning that she passed, January 13th, or the day that she passed, I was sleeping on the couch in the living room, and I was sleeping on the couch in the living room. We had the corner couch. I was sleeping right underneath the window because that's where the couch was at the time. And I woke up on my back and I was looking up at the ceiling, and I don't know if it was like, she obviously didn't pull up a chair or anything, but I knew she had passed away before Mom sent the group chat text message. I was staring up at the ceiling and I just felt it in my bones. And I said to myself, Aunt Ginny passed. And then not even 20 minutes later, Mom texted me or texted the group chat and said Aunt Ginny had passed away. I never told anybody that because it was always something I felt very personal about. But since this is a topic of conversation and, I know for a fact I felt it before Mommy had texted us. 100%. I also, hold on. I didn't know who was going to pass away when it was, but when COVID was happening and it was like maybe a week and a half or so before Uncle Keith passed, I went up to Mom, and this is a little different, but it's kind of in the same vein. I went up to Mom, and you can ask Mom. I said, I have this feeling in the pit of my stomach that something terrible is about to happen. I have this anxiety, and she told me, oh, it's because of the world and how everything is right now with COVID. But I told her, I feel like something horrible is about to happen. And then everyone got COVID and started to, and everything started happening. So there you go.
Isaiah,
Interesting.
have you ever had anything like this happen?
What was the question again? What was it?
Have you ever like seeing or feeling someone right before you found out that they were gone?
No. Yeah, in that instance, no. No, never.
No? Okay.
Mm-mm.
Dad?
I have never felt about anybody dying myself, but I've witnessed it.
His sugar's high, everybody. Just letting everyone know that.
You got to speak louder if you're going to talk.
Your
to that.
sugar's high?
I said your sugar's high. That's why your phone's beeping.
You just ate dinner?
Yeah,
Can you check what it is? Because you're shaking.
it's fine. It's
He probably just say you just gotta wait for the medicine.
it's the highest it goes, 251. It's fine.
Okay. Anyway.
Okay, continue.
I personally have not experienced that, but I have experienced it with a loved one who was going through it. But it was at the time of just before she was dying, and she saw a vision, which scared the living shit out of me because I'm looking in the corner where she's pointing to
Oh,
him,
yeah.
and it was my grandmother, and she's looking up, she's going, and my grandfather's name was Anthony, and she said, Anthony, I'm coming, I'll be there soon, I'm on my way. And scared the shit out of me because literally before that, she was laying there like smiling and almost near death. You know what I mean?
Like blissfully?
Blissfully, and she, that night she passed. I mean, the night before, I literally sat there for 2 nights, and the night before, I mean, she went to take a she asked me for water, and I went to give her water, and she couldn't suck it out of the straw. But yet, to make me feel better, she made herself satisfied.
Oh.
And I know I tried again, and she wouldn't bite. But the day that she did pass, she, in her mind, she saw something. Whether she did or not, I can't say yay or nay, but I have heard that happening. And then when that happens to you in a situation like that, it's just, wow,
Mhm.
But that's my only experience with it. But I have heard other people in my family have gone through it, but that's a story for another day.
Yeah, I think that's the only thing I've experienced with that is like my uncle and my grandmother on my father's side, they both passed away kind of like with a smirk, like a smile on their face. And you can't help but put it together like they must have saw something before they died.
Yeah.
Something with love or maybe past family members or just the afterlife, which what they believed in was heaven and God, Jesus, so they both died with smiles, and they must have saw something before they left this earth. 100%.
I believe that 100%, because look, whether it was induced by death or whether it was induced by the real thing, if they're smiling, they crossed over in peace. So that's semi comforting to people that are still here. I mean, we're all selfish. We want them to be here forever, but the reality is none of us are. And to your point, I wish everybody could die like that, peacefully and smiling and not enjoying, but going into the next realm.
You hear it happening, people before they die, they or they have these near death experiences and they're like, I saw it, and they all kind of say the same thing. I saw this man, he must have been Jesus, and I felt love and I felt this. And some people have different experiences, but as far as like me personally feeling something before they passed or saying, uh, my grandmother passed, I felt something was touching me. It never happened. When their time has come, their time has come. And nobody gave me a warning and said, hey, this is going to happen right now. Unfortunately, you don't get that. Or at least I haven't got that,
No,
Well,
I haven't either.
that's the difference with the Aunt Ginny thing. I didn't feel it before it happened. It kind of felt like, I don't know how to explain it, like a light went out is what it felt like. Like I woke up and like the world was a little less full. Like the world was a little more empty. And I felt that and I'm like, what the hell is going on? Like, and I laid there for a second. What?
No, I gotta have another experience. I just
Like
remembered.
I'm laying there and I'm like, because it was maybe 2 days after we visited her in the hospital. And I'm like,
Actually, we were there that night.
yeah,
I think she died 3 a.m,
something like that.
And
But I woke up on the couch and I'm staring at the ceiling and I feel this like intense emptiness, maybe is what it felt like. And I'm like, why do I feel this way? And then I started thinking about Aunt Ginny and, and then mom texted and I was like, I don't know why I felt it, but I felt like I knew she
I'm
was
going to give you
gone.
your answer. And it's going to be creepy, but it's also going to be, when you think about it, out of your brothers and sister, out of you and Amanda, you both look like my mom.
Mhm.
Amanda looks like your mom. But you look exactly like my mother. There's no getting around it. You like the day of your wedding with that turnaround thing, I almost shit myself. I couldn't believe what I was looking at. And I was like, whoa. And that's why you see me put my head down. I'm like, are you kidding me? I believed Aunt Ginny and to a degree, Laura, my cousin, Aunt Ginny's daughter, feel the same way. Because Laura is, for some reason, now all my cousins are close to you, but Laura is close to you in a different way. She's almost like she latches onto you, because I think Laura sees that, my mother was her godmother and her aunt, and they were, you want two people joined at the hip. When my mother was younger, there wasn't a fly that got past her without giving every description. Laura's the same thing. You didn't make a move on Laura because Laura wasn't going to take any shit. And the fact that that's that way and you are looking like my mother, I think Aunt Ginny kind of might have latched onto that in life. I know for a fact that she was very close to you
Mm-hmm.
and Laura too.
Mm-hmm.
Now, Laura and I never discussed this, but you can see it in Laura's eyes and her
I know.
actions.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
she's very fond of me. I've taken notice of that, and I'm very thankful for that, because although there's distance and there's age gap and everything, like and all of that, she's always drawn to me, even at Uncle Sal's funeral. I mean, when everyone gave her hugs or whatever, but she looked at me, and she's always called me T, and she looked at me and she's like, "Oh, T," and I hugged her, and I knelt in front of her, and I hugged her for like 5-6 minutes, just being with her. And maybe that's why, because I look like grandmama, maybe, but
there's definitely a connection.
oh, for sure. I mean, like I said, when I woke up that morning, the day that Aunt Ginny passed away, it felt like a flame went out. That's exactly what it felt like the world was a little like it was a little more cold.
It was.
So anyway, back to Joey.
No, it's all right. I'm letting you guys riff. It's beautiful to see this, beautiful to hear this. I love this type of going back and forth, because it's not argument; it's just remembrance.
Wonder
But
why.
They're so close related, the two experiences and what you get, but they're two separate things. One is called crisis apparition, which our episode is on tonight, which is what I feel like, Teresa, you felt the most of as far as the Aunt Ginny situation. What you felt with Mima, Dad, they're called deathbed visions.
Mm-hmm.
They're not the same thing, but they are very close related, and I'll give you the definition and the separations between the two. So crisis apparitions is the living seeing the dead. So who experiences it is someone who is alive and sees, hears, and senses a person who is dying or who has just died. When it happens, it usually is the exact moment or shortly after the person's death, often before anyone knows they're gone. Example, you're home at this is an example they give. You're at home, you suddenly see your best friend standing in the hallway. The next day, you find out they passed around the same time you saw that person. That the interpretation is some see this as a telepathic or spiritual goodbye. Skeptics call it coincidence or emotional projection. This is what our episode is about. The deathbed visions is the dying sees the dead. Who experiences is someone who is actively dying, often in hospice or in their final moments. When it happens, usually in the hours or days before death. Why they report seeing deceased loved ones, angels, or spiritual figures, often described as coming to get them, quote unquote, or guide them. Example, a grandmother near the end of her life suddenly opens her eyes, smiles, and says, "Mom's here, she's waiting for me." She then passes a short time later. The interpretation is, in spiritual traditions, this is seen as loved ones welcoming the person home. From a medical perspective, some describe it as part of the brain's transition during the dying process. So that's what the differences between. They're very similar, but they are differences. And both experiences involve visions of people who aren't physically present. They happen near the time of death. They feel deeply real and emotional to the person experiencing them. The separations is the crisis apparitions experienced by someone who else when the other person dies, and the deathbed visions are experienced by the dying person themselves, obviously.
Yeah.
And how, like we said, spiritual deathbed visions are seen as proof of an afterlife or a soul being greeted by loved ones. Crisis apparitions are the soul saying goodbye. That is a spiritual view. The psychological view is these are could be powerful, meaningful hallucinations, the mind's way of easing fear and processing transition. And then the psychological there you go. Psychological view is both could involve some form of consciousness or energy that extends beyond the body at death. So they're very, very similar, but there are differences by obviously, person dying and then the person seeing someone who is dying. That is, we could talk about both because I think they're both very relevant and they're both not proven to be real. Because again, these are, if you come from a skeptic point of view, these are, what's the word? Anthony used it. These are self, like the only person who can see this is you. So there's no physical proof we can get on something like this. This is just a personal story. This is something you can catch on video. This is something you can catch on audio. None of it, like, we don't have like physical, tangible proof that, like, look.
Right.
I mean, I agree with that when it comes to like my experience. No one else was there with me. I don't even know if I don't even remember if I was home alone or, if you were home or dad was home. I have no idea. I just know that in the moment I was alone. And someone can look at me and be like, yeah, you're a bullshit liar. Like that never happened or it was a coincidence, like whatever. But to me, it was real. And the fact that 10 minutes later, I get a text message that this individual passed away, it just made sense. Like the puzzle pieces fit together. But then you have situations like individuals who are on their deathbed and they're experiencing near death experiences and they're greeted by Jesus Christ, and there's hundreds of other people who have had the exact same experiences and describing Jesus Christ, and they all have the same descriptions of each other. Like to me, that's not coincidence. Like that's real. That's Jesus. Like there's children, literal children who are video recorded on, having cancer, and they're just talking to someone in the corner and they're talking to Jesus Christ. And then when they come out of it, they explain who are you talking to? What do they look like? And that description fits 50, 60, 70, 200, 400 other people's descriptions of Jesus Christ. It's like, how does that become a personal experience? That's a shared experience by hundreds of other people. Like that's insane.
I mean, we should all be lucky enough to do that.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean, if the first person you're going to see when you leave this earth is Jesus Christ. And another thing about that too is when you hear, now I'm not talking about children, but like people like with the near deaths, what you were talking about. These are the same people that the first thing they feel, they see the blinding light at the end of a tunnel. And then they feel this intense love.
Mm-hmm.
Well, you're not going to feel that intense love without Jesus Christ.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to feel that intense love with just dying and crossing over and going, oh, where the fuck am I?
Right.
It's not going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you're going to get skeptics that are going to say, oh, gee, you're making it up. But I guess when you're in that moment, and none of us know that, and God, I hope we never, not anytime soon, but should you all be lucky enough to do that, then okay, well, I made it. You know what I mean? Or, whatever. I have a little story. Now, I don't know, maybe you could fit this in whatever category you want. It's similar to yours, Teresa. February 19th, 1972. I'm laying in my bed next door. I can't get to sleep. You ever get that where you're waking all night, you want to go to sleep, and it's really, it bothers me. Well, anyway, I'm laying there, and all of a sudden, I look and I see, and I know I was awake, but I was dreaming. It's hard to explain.
Lucid dreams. That's what they're called. They're called lucid dreams.
In this dream, there was a TV.
Yeah.
Just a TV screen. In the corner, I could picture this like it was this morning. In the corner, there was a guy in a surgeon's mask and a surgeon hat on his head.
Mm-hmm.
And on the screen, there was a car accident. This guy says to me in this dream, that's your cousin, Virginia Ann.
Mm.
I'm like, okay. Now, Virginia Ann is, Joyce and Sally. Joey,
yeah.
That's his sister. I'm like, and I'm trying to wake up, and now this is bothering me all night. 9 o'clock the next day, my aunt is at the house. Virginia Ann passed, not from a car accident. She had Hodgkin's disease, and she died. Now, I didn't know that going into my sleep, but yet somehow, and then to find out, 40 years later, February 19th, the same day Uncle Sal passed. So it's like, whoa, this is too much for me. And because it was such an imprint on my brain, and I was only 12 at the time. No, I was 11, actually. This stuff sticks with you.
Yeah.
And it did. And I'll never forget it. And Joey asked me a while ago, we were talking, how do you remember that date? I said, well, Joe, you put it up all the time. I said, but that date is living in infamy of what our family went through. I mean, everybody came to our house. So you remember this. But I remember that dream vividly. So I don't know where you'd want to put that in.
Well, no, I mean, to be honest, like, again, if it's not your cousin didn't visit you herself and tell you this. So I don't know where exactly that could fit in, but it does seem like it's something like this. Like basically you have here what it says is, picture this, you're sitting in your living room, TV on the background, and suddenly your mom or your best friend walk through the doorway, no words, no sound, just a presence. The next morning you get the call, they died around the same time you saw them. That's what the phenomenon is. These encounters aren't always visual. Sometimes it's a voice, sometimes it's a touch, like a hand on your shoulder, and sometimes it's overwhelming feeling that something happened.
That's exactly what I felt.
Right. I think I agree. There was a part that you read there that was more of like it could be mental or like a physical thing that your brain kind of like hallucinates on its own, that you know that you're having a vision of your mother in a hallway, and you're like, you're like, Mom, what are you doing here? Then all of a sudden, hours later you find out that your mom died. Like, I think it could be the brain, kind of putting things together, or, somebody sitting at a hospital bed and they've been there for a while, and you're having this thing where you think you saw them in passing, or you saw them pass by your window or something, and all of a sudden you get the phone call that they died. you know, I believe, yes, it could be your mind playing tricks on you, but I also believe in the work of the Lord, that he's trying to bring comfort in some way to, show you or tell you that, you know what, everything's going to be okay. Like they're still going to be around. This isn't going to be the only time that you're going to see them, so you'll see them, probably not on this life, but the next one for sure, so I believe in the work in the Lord that way. But to say that a brother or a mother or a father passed away and then their spirit came to you intentionally to visit you, I don't believe in that. Because I believe in when that person dies, that person moves on. They're not really worried or concerned about, oh, I got to go see my cousin, or I got to go see this person, that person.
I mean,
That person has moved on to glory,
Mhm.
being with the Lord. And I think the Lord, takes that presence first, for them, and greets them to heaven, what comes next. But as far as that goes, or that spirit traveling and saying, well, I'm going to go visit these people, I can't say I agree with that.
I don't know. I mean, this is a little different than having apparitions or seeing somebody before you die, or seeing somebody, and then getting a call that they're dead. But I mean, in regards to like something like that, where, they move on, they not forget about you, but they move on to better things in paradise, like X, Y, and Z. A perfect example is with Uncle Keith. I've had so many little experiences, dreams, photos, music, things that like just kind of, and maybe it's my mind looking for it. Maybe it's my mind looking for it for comfort, or looking for him in everything I see. But the dream that stands out to me is we were all upstairs in the kitchen, and he was knocking on the door on the upstairs flat. And I opened the door, and he's standing there in that tan and gray striped shirt and like a pair of cargo shorts, which is like his staple. And I open the door and I'm like, where the fuck have you been? Like, what happened? Like, why are you here now and you're not, like, what happened? And he's like, baby girl, I'm on vacation. I'm good. Like, you don't have to worry about me. I'm happy. Like, stop worrying about me. Stop thinking about where I am. I'm good. I'm happy. Just know that I've made it. Like, and I'm going back on vacation. I just wanted to check in and say hi. And that stuck with me. And Amanda's had similar dreams with that same verbiage. And then other things like the first flight I ever took to Puerto Rico, I was listening to the radio. I was falling asleep. Not falling asleep, but I was kind of, loosely falling asleep. And I was listening to Sirius XM on the plane, and Have You Seen Her came on. And and I have a picture of it too. The minute that song hit, I looked at him and I was like, my uncle's with me. Regardless of, I know. I think I know what yeah. Regardless of if you're, like, if he believes in it, like, to me, that was my uncle being with me on my first flight ever. His song, the song that I attached to him, the Shy Lights, on the first flight I've ever taken. And then this past week, going to Florida on my honeymoon, the guy next to me's name was Keith. And he looked like a condensed version of my uncle. The guy he was talking to looked like Uncle Keith, the teeth and everything. And then just driving through, I think we were driving through Boca, the huge sign that just said Keith. Like, that to me, those are signs. Like, those I don't know if are there signs or
The
it's just
sign
like
is a sign.
I don't know if it's a sign, but it's like, to me, selfishly, that brings me comfort. Like,
Not be
I don't know if that's him with me. I don't know if that's, me just hoping for signs from him or just kind of cling on to it. But they're so coincidental that it makes you think.
The one thing, especially with the crisis apparition thing, is it's not as related, but as far as like media and for the people who are watching this, whoever's watching this when they decide to watch it, the only thing, if you've watched The Sopranos, you know that The Sopranos, in the David Chase, he wrote out these weird dreams for Tony to have, and the one that sticks out to me that is something like this, even though it's not about him dying, which technically he did. But when Tony knew Pussy was a rat and he was talking as the fish. This is as close as, to me, like, as far as media I know, that gets to what this is. Because Tony in his mind knows what it is, and Pussy's telling him in his dream, like, look, it's me. Like, it's not, we all know, obviously, it's not really Pussy because it was a fucking fish. But it's something subconsciously in your mind that you may know, and this is your mind telling you that this, because look, when it comes to something like Aunt Ginny, like, you knew she had cancer, you knew she was on
Right.
her deathbed, you knew she was close to dying. So I'm not saying like you're sitting there, like, it is a weird feeling, and it's something where if I look back, and listen, people are like, yeah, that's, she's
When you
letting you
break it
know.
down logistically, seeing her for the last time, or what we all assumed would be the
Yeah.
last time, seeing her in the state that she was in at the hospital, when you break it down medically and logistically, obviously, we knew that it was going to happen, unfortunately. But the feeling that I had when I woke up, that intense emptiness, was indescribable. Like, it was something that I never experienced in my life, not even when Uncle, Pop, or Mama passed away.
The funny part, not funny, but like, if any of us would have experienced that with Uncle Keith, specifically Uncle Keith, because Uncle Keith, unfortunately, his death was out of nowhere.
Literally out of pocket.
Yeah, literally, no one was expecting Uncle Keith to pass away. No one at all.
Well, he was known for shocking people.
Yeah,
doing the
but
unexpected.
if any
if there was a guy that was going to do it, it was going to be him.
if any of us had that type of, and of he passed away and everybody was asleep, and coming into dreams, if anybody had that type of, like, you woke up at the moment, or around the moment he died, like, the only way I could sit there and get any close to is I woke up that morning, and it was like 6:30 because he called me. Dad, you called me because you were checking on me because I had COVID and I was quarantined. And I don't know if 6:30 in the morning is when he passed away or anything like that, but I
think
know
that's close.
you called me at around 6:30 in the morning, and then I didn't wake up till 8, and that was Teresa banging on my door. I went back to sleep.
I was getting ready for work. And I heard commotion outside. I didn't have dreams. I spoke with him the night before on FaceTime. I was in the bathroom and I told him everything was going to be all right. And I told him that if, at the time there was something like a thing that said, like, if you are getting, like, if you're not coughing as much or whatever, that means you're getting over it. And nobody knew because we were still in, like, the depths and the newness of COVID. I told him everything was going to be fine. And then the next morning I heard commotion outside. I didn't feel anything. I didn't expect any of it. And I came outside and, Dad, I asked what was going on and he told me to get the fuck back in my room. And I was like, what are you talking, like, what's going on? And, I heard what he said to Mom, and I don't want to relive the day, but like, I didn't feel anything the way I felt it for Aunt Ginny. And that's what kind of has always, and I've never talked about it because it's been such a personal experience that, and I know what Aunt Ginny's death, like, meant to our family and how devastating it was. It's not something I prefer to bring up all the time, but it was such a unique experience for me that when I think about it and I sit and really think about it, it's like obviously I loved Aunt Ginny. She was a fantastic woman, but I wasn't like with her every day or talked to her every day. So feeling that for her struck me because it's not someone I'd expect to feel the emptiness for, if that makes sense. Like you would expect Mama, one of my idols in my entire life, feeling that. But when Mama died, Anthony called me at 11:30 at night and he gave me the phone and he told me, and it wasn't something I was prepared for it because of what was going on and how she was. Papa's the same way. It devastated me, but it wasn't a shock. But with Aunt Ginny, just getting that intense feeling and the emptiness and the feeling I had when I woke up just staring at the ceiling, knowing that it happened, just knowing, I just knew that she had passed. Is still something that I can't explain why I got that
All right.
sense.
So historically, crisis apparitions isn't a new thing. In fact, crisis apparitions have been reported for centuries. Back in the late 1800s, the Society for Psychical, I don't know that fucking word, psychical research, fuck off.
Okay,
Ru-
Mom.
Real academics, not ghost hunters, collected thousands of these reports. In hundreds of the cases, the timing lined up almost exactly with the moment the person died, sometimes down to the hour. Some people hear their name called across an empty house. Some feel like a kiss on their forehead. And some just know deep in their gut. So the question that I have for everyone on the panel tonight is, if hundreds of these cases line up with the exact time of death, is that just coincidence, or do you think there's something more to it? Dad, we'll start with you.
I can't give you an answer. I can't, because I don't know. And for the amount of people that are in the world, billions of people, you're bound to get millions of similar experiences. It might just be part of the human experience. It might be something that maybe in that, like a psychic, some kind of energy in that. Some people are open to it. Some people might not be. But to give you a definite answer, I'm not qualified to do that. I don't look, there's a lot of things that I believe in and I'll fight for. This is not one of them. I don't believe
You will not die on this hill.
I also believe that, and to Isaiah's point, that, when people die, they come back and they got nothing to do. And, they're just like, I guess they figure they'll come back and see their loved ones, and say hi or whatever. I have a problem with that. But the problem basically is biblical, because in the Bible, for people that believe in the Bible, I know you do, I forgot what quote it was, but when you die, you will know nothing of your past life. You'll be born again into a new life, either in heaven or purgatory or whatever you go. But in other words, when you cross over, you're a new person. You don't know, because to be honest with you, if I'm a person and somebody's struggling and I leave them, I'm gonna do whatever I can to visit them and fight for them and try to help them. And I think that's the way of Jesus is saying, or God's way of saying, they'll be okay. They're only here for a short time and they might have to suffer, which I still don't get that at all, but it's part of the Bible. And I do believe that when you leave this earth, you're not coming back to visit your loved ones. So, again, I can't say yay or nay, but if you believe the Bible, then you believe it. Some of us believe the Bible is up for interpretation. Some believe that the Bible that's it, it's the Bible and the Word of God. So you pick and choose what you want. And the problem there is a lot of people will be like, it's either this way or it's this way. You don't have one answer. And I don't believe there's any fit answer for this entire thing.
Well, no, I do think that two things can be true at the same time, but I'll get to your point after. I'll have Teresa and Isaiah answer the question if you guys want to.
What's the question again? I'm sorry.
It's if hundreds of these cases lined up exactly at the same, exact time of death, is that just coincidence?
No, I don't think so. Having I don't know what time Aunt Ginny passed away exactly, but having a shared experience with something like this, to me, and it's not just Aunt Ginny, I've not felt, I don't know how to, because when you talk about it and you're open about it, it sounds really crazy and whatever, but there's been times where like celebrities, like I think of a celebrity one day, the next day they're dead. Or I think of some person one day, the next day they're gone, or the next day they get into a horrible car wreck.
I can tell you for one, like me and Dad have been talking about kids for the last fucking week now, and fucking over the
Frehley
weekend,
dies.
yeah, Ace Frehley's dead. And
It's
fucking,
a very weird, and if it is coincidental, it's extremely coincidental. But I feel like I don't think so. I feel like, there's so much that we don't know when it comes to death, that humans just don't, that we're not made to understand, because we're not going to come back from it. We're not going to come back from dying and say, yeah, this happens and that happens or whatever. And God gave me the permission to go to X, Y, and Z and this person and give him a kiss on the forehead one last time. Like, you're not going to know. There's so many things that we're never going to understand because we're not made to understand them. So, but I do believe that it's not coincidental. I believe that as their, maybe it's their final act of, being on this plane. It's their final goodbye, their final, whatever. If hundreds of people are having the same shared experiences and research shows that it happens maybe down to the hour of the individual passing away, I don't see how that can be coincidental, especially if they're all having the same experience in one way or another. It's just hard for me to fathom that it's just something that happens. So I think that would be my answer, but it's biased because I've experienced it. Ish.
all right, Isaiah.
Kind of bumping off Joe. It's true. It's, when you carry this faith, or biblically when you read, I was just finished reading it there because it sounded so familiar. Because when Joe brought it up, I was like, man, it reminds me of this verse. I didn't know exactly where it was, but it was Jesus speaking to one of a follower of his, a disciple of his, and basically the disciple was like, you know what, I'll follow you, but I need to bury my father first. Like, I need to handle this. And Jesus basically said to him, follow me and let the dead bury their own, because the dead is the dead, and, they're going to move on to, where they belong. That's something that's being handled by, the Father, God, in the afterlife. That's not for you to worry about, so let the dead bury their own, and you have to move on, so it just reminded me so much about that. But yeah, I mean, as far as these people, all these cases and all these reports, yeah, they all relate somehow. But, as far as from what I could put together is, like I said, the mind could play tricks on you. And I think a lot of things, they're getting reported after the fact. So this person dies, and, like every day you notice something weird, maybe in your vision, or you think you heard something, but you think nothing of it, and you just carry on about your day. But then somebody dies, and then you think back like, wow, like when I seen that thing or I heard that thing, maybe that was my grandmother, or maybe that was my grandfather that just passed, and somebody was trying to talk to me. And then you kind of put this together after the fact, like, oh yeah, I've heard my grandfather across the room say something. I didn't know what it was until I got the phone call, or until I got the news. And then you kind of putting two and two together after the fact and saying that must have been him. But if that would have never happened, if your grandfather would never passed, or your cousin would have never passed, you would have thought nothing of it. You would have just went about your day, and life would have been life. So really can't say. I mean, it depends on the situation, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, I can agree with you if, like, I don't know, if in Teresa's aspect, if she had that feeling and Aunt Jeannie never passed away and it was just a feeling, then yeah. But like some of these cases are reporting of seeing people's apparitions like in the middle of the hallway,
Yeah.
or like you're seeing the person and then knowing that this person's dead. Like I can understand that to a point. Like, in the next segment we have is, the scientific versus the supernatural aspect of it. The skeptics, they have their explanations. Some say it's grief, some say it's hallucinations brought by emotional shock. Others say it's coincidence, or people refrain from what they experience after learning about the death. It's basically kind of what you just explained there, Isaiah. But there are some of these cases where people see the apparitions, like I said, before the death is even confirmed. That makes it harder to just shrug off. That's why, and going back to your point, Dad, with the Bible saying that people are going to heaven and nobody's on earth and stuff like that, yes, we don't have physical, I will say, put that in quotations and say that word lightly, proof of ghosts or people like afterlife. But there's so much out there that is unexplained.
Oh yeah.
That to sit there and that's something again.
Again, I don't want me to cut you off, but
You will.
I will. I think there's a difference here when you pass away, and if it is exactly what the Bible says, when you pass away and you go down that tunnel and you see Jesus, well, then everything's going to start from that moment on. That's what I believe. I also believe that there's a spot in there before you get there. If you decide, I don't want to go down there because that scares the living hell out of me, I don't know what it is. I choose to stay here. Then you're caught between the living and the dead. That then, in my opinion, becomes a spirit or a ghost who has either, for some reason, maybe they're afraid if I cross this path, I'm going to be judged. If I'm judging correctly, well, then I'm burning. I'm going to stay here where it's confusion and I'm going to be lonely, but at least I'm not going to suffer. Not realizing at that moment in time, that would be your punishment. That's going to be, you're going to create your own hell at that point.
The funny part about this is with that type of situation, Teresa, I don't know if you remember because it's been so long, but do you remember Supernatural?
Yes.
Do you remember watching mostly all Supernatural?
A majority of it, yeah.
Okay. Do you remember when Bobby died and he came back as a ghost?
Yes.
And the thing with the Supernatural, what Supernatural explained, is that which is why I love the show so much. It may be a CW show, but I love the show because it deals with so many of this religious and afterlife stuff.
It's your podcast and a show.
Basically, that's exactly what it is. They basically said that, look, when a ghost is either not going to heaven or not going to hell or not being judged, and they're staying on Earth, the longer they stay on Earth, they become an evil spirit. They become more stressed out and more like determined to do bad things and stuff like that. Like it the longer you stray away from the heaven, going to heaven,
Well, you're denying God at that
then you become,
which is the ultimate sin.
You become more evil. Yeah, and you become more evil. And I think that is such an interesting concept when it comes to, like, take for instance, and the perfect example of this is the oh god, I forgot the name of the town, but it's the basis for The Conjuring 2 with the old man. He's not a demon.
Surrey, England, isn't it?
Yeah, he's not a demon.
Right.
He's a spirit, and he was there long enough to become evil.
But he was being there was in that storyline, there was also a demon involved.
I wouldn't say evil. I would say angry. Because if you think of it, and it's a hard concept to even try and materialize because you're not in that situation, nor will you ever have the experience, God willing. But if you're a spirit or someone who's just passed on and let's say you have the option of going to heaven, accepting God, which if you accept God in how I believe, if you accept God as a human, your ultimate path is heaven. Like if you accept Jesus Christ in your heart and you're saved and you're a believer, you're going to heaven. Like you're not getting a choice because that's where you're going to be. That's what God's promise is. But if you have this concept of like, well, you have an option and I'm going to stay here because I don't want to be judged. And if I'm wrongfully judged, I'm going to go to hell and burn. I'd rather just stay here and try and figure it out. The longer you're here in this, which I believe in Catholicism would be purgatory, or just on this plane of earth, on this suspension.
No, purgatory is the waiting for to be judged.
Well,
it's not really the choice of I want to stay.
If we're talking about a choice, quote unquote, if we're talking about a choice or whatever, the longer that you're in this suspension, you're going to become more and more increasingly angry because where are you supposed to go? If you turn from God, that's it.
Yeah, that's why I said to you, that becomes your hell.
Right.
You are trapped.
Like once you turn from God, like it's not and you're dead. Like when you're alive, you have all the opportunity in the world to turn to God and accept him. But again, this is all skeptical because we don't know.
I would think after you're dead, you have eternity.
But that's the thing, like you're not we don't know because we're not dead, and you're not gonna understand it, and it's such a ginormous concept to even try and fathom and materialize because you're not dead and you've never spoken to somebody who's been dead. But just trying to make sense of it, if you're someone who has this option after dying of going, to heaven, hell, or just staying here because you don't want to be judged, if you choose to stay here because you don't want to be judged, you're turning away from God, which is the ultimate sin, and you don't have an option to get to him anymore.
Right.
Because that
That's
door
the
has been
king right
closed.
there. That's right. When that door's closed,
What was that? Was that you?
Yeah, that was
Scared
me.
the fuck out of me.
Because
I'm like, it sounded like
You
a
heard it?
siren.
No, because I don't like that. It's not a vernacular. I don't like that phrase. Because if you believe in the Bible, if you believe, and this is getting so much into a religious talk,
But that's okay.
But if
When
you,
it comes to death, it all leads back to the same place.
It does.
If you believe in the Bible and you believe that God is an ever-loving God and God will always forgive and God will always love you, then the door never fully closes.
But that's if you're a
Right.
believer.
Right.
If you're a believer.
Right.
If you don't believe in that and you're making this decision as a spirit saying, you know what, I don't want to go to God because he's going to judge me and maybe he's not going to be too happy with what I did.
that doesn't mean you don't believe. That means you still believe. You're just choosing.
But if you're choosing to turn from God, then you don't believe. And that is the ultimate sin. If you choose to say, I don't want to go to God, I don't have any interest in being with him, I'm just going to stay here. I'm just going to stay on this
I'm going to be chilling.
material, this plane of existence. I'm just going to be suspended and I'm not going to go anywhere. I'm not choosing the path with God. You're turning away. And that is the ultimate sin. Once you're dead, the door's closed. I can wake up tomorrow morning and say, you know what? I don't believe in God. All of this is a bunch of hoopla. I don't want to deal with it. But as I'm alive, as I'm a walking, breathing human on this planet, I still have the option of saying, no, I accept God I accept Jesus as my Lord and Savior. I want to be with Jesus Christ. But once you're dead and you decide, and again, this is all, we're just, bullshitting. But once you're dead and you decide, I don't want to go to Jesus, like, I don't want to be judged, I don't want to be sent to hell, I just want to stay where I am and just deal with it. You don't have the option of making the decision anymore because ultimately the option was supposed to be made when you were alive. And if you're given that option when you're dead and you look at Jesus in the face and say, I'm good, I don't need you, he's not going to wait any longer, you're already dead. Like,
It's so interesting. I agree. Like
I don't
little
mean to get all,
pieces.
like-
No, you're good. Little pieces of you guys. Like I agree with the like things you guys said. And it's I can't agree with a spirit, meaning a soul, a human that passed, being here on earth and then turning into an evil spirit. I can't agree with that. That's a bunch of nonsense. You're basically saying that God has abandoned you, you're left behind, and that's it. You're just a forgotten soul, and that's not true. You pass on, God handles the rest. The evil spirits are real, and
Very much so.
angels are real. Right now, at this very moment, just as time has passed on, there is a spiritual warfare, and the spiritual warfare is angels and demons. But these angels and demons are not people that have passed. These angels and demons are God's angels and demons that were cast down from heaven. That brings us back all the way to the beginning of the Bible when Satan was cast out of heaven, and these spirits and these fallen angels were brought with him. These are the evil spirits that are here now, in the spiritual warfare that are causing this mayhem. We could get into it, but I'm not gonna get into that. But these are the evil spirits that we're dealing with here. But saying that, oh no, it's my grandmother or my cousin that's passed on and now they turn into the spirit and they're guiding me through life. No, unfortunately not. But that evil spirits are real, angels are real, and I do believe that they do have a hand in kind of what we experience as we go through life.
Oh, no doubt.
Yeah, but saying that this is a grandmother or a past relative and then now they're stuck here on earth, it's not true. These are things that you hear from people that do the gemstones and the tarot cards, and your mother's angry and she's here and she's in purgatory and you have to give money for her to be released and you have to do all these crazy things. That's what they want you to believe. These evil spirits want you to believe that there's a relative that's left behind that's here in this spiritual world that's stuck. And it's not true. That's just another demonic game, that they want to play with you, and this is an evil spirit that is attacking you to make you to believe that these things are real, and to say that they're stuck in purgatory is to say that Jesus didn't do his job, that Jesus' sacrifice wasn't good enough. You know what it is to say, now, my grandmother's probably stuck in purgatory because she never forgave me, of what I did one time or whatever it is, or my sin, or she never went to confession, but she believed Jesus Christ was her Lord and Savior. So how is it fair for her to be stuck in purgatory until she's clean? Jesus Christ is good enough. You're basically saying that the Lord's sacrifice wasn't good enough. Now you got to hang around for a while, be here on earth, or be a spirit, or be stuck in purgatory for what? It doesn't make any sense to me. So I can't say I agree with the whole souls being left behind or the purgatory situation.
I love hearing him talk about this stuff.
He just literally steered this whole conversation into another thing, and I know we're off topic a little bit here. Well, maybe a lot, but
no, I'm trying to bring it back into the topic. Yeah,
I do agree exactly what you're saying. However, with a slightly different, I do believe that if you choose to say, well, I'm not going down there because that scares me. I don't know what's I'm waiting for. I know it's Jesus, but I'm not convinced that I'm going to be judged properly or I'm going to go to heaven. And I decide to cut him off. Now, is there a way to make amends for them spirits? There has to be. There has to be. If that is true. However, getting back to your point about the demonic works in a very, very calculated way. Their object is to make you believe that they don't exist, that it's all bullshit. Did you ever hear the story of a frog that's if you put a frog in boiling water, what's it going to do?
Tweak out.
It's going to jump out, right?
Okay.
If you put a frog,
as one would, yeah.
right. If you put a frog in a pot of cold water and you slowly turn up the heat, it's going to slowly get hotter and hotter and hotter before it's too late and it's over.
Okay.
That's the way the demonic works. They're not going to come at you. I mean, yeah, in certain instances, yes, there is. And
it starts small.
They start small.
It's not Hollywood.
But,
yeah.
But what it is if you could take the movie shit out of it and the Hollywood aspect out of it, it's very real.
Oh yeah.
And it's 100%. Very frightening that and I don't want to get off as a preacher or whatever, but
no, go off.
With everything that is going on in the world right now, they are trying to pull everybody away from God, away from Jesus, away from whatever God you believe in, but all that God is the same God.
Right.
And I believe that they're doing it for a reason, whether it's let's change this law to make this slightly better, or I'm going to bring up let's use the abortion thing. Some people believe that abortion.
It's good conversation.
Right.
Some people will believe that abortion is.
I'm fine with the good conversation, but my God, can we please crisis apparitions?
Come on.
And before you know it, all these things are changed to where now everything is looked at in this certain way, and that's what they want. That's what the demonic want. It's not that hard to figure out. If you realize from the beginning what the demonic were and are, you'll realize they will take the eyes out of your head without you even knowing it. And before you know it, it's too late.
It's so funny. I had this same conversation with Anthony, and I was telling Anthony, I was like, these evil spirits will work in a way where they will make you feel like what you're doing is not bad.
Right.
That you're, like morally, this is fine. You're not hurting anybody, looking at that porno or, probably beating your wife. I don't know. Like, it's not that bad,
Excuse
like,
me?
because the evil spirits will work in that way. Like, oh no, you're the man in the house. You go lay down the law. There's nothing wrong with that. People do it all the time. That's how these evil spirits work into thinking like, you know what? These shortcomings, the Lord is going to love you as you are, which is true. When you come to Christ as a faithful man and you listen to what the Lord has taught, these teachings and everything, and you invite him into your heart, you will slowly change if you welcome it.
Right.
Mhm.
If you don't, and you're just believing into your head, into your heart, this flesh, and you're saying, well, that it ain't bad, what you're doing isn't and it all makes sense in your head because you're relying on your head, you're relying on your heart, you're relying on your flesh instead of relying on the Lord.
Right.
So I do agree with you.
And let's just make a side note.
This
Us
is
men, we don't wear the pants of the family.
Right,
Okay.
exactly.
modern day encounters. So let's fast forward to now. In the age of security cameras, Ring doorbells, TikTok, and YouTube, these stories are still happening. There's a video out there it's a documentary called Crisis Apparitions When the Dead Say Goodbye, where people talk about seeing loved ones before finding out that they have passed away.
Right.
It is a documentary that is out there. Another one is called Deathbed Visions, Afterlife Research. It focuses on people who claim they saw relatives appear in the room as they themselves were dying. Obviously, I'm guessing these people. Ooh, my camera's out of focus. I'm guessing these people were brought back from the dead. 2 minutes, because there's been many of those type of stories. Also, somebody died for a minute, and they explained. There was one story which I love. This person, he was dead for 2 minutes, and he turned around and he sat there and goes, I went through hell. Then he described everything that was happening. Deathly terrifying as you're reading through what he's describing.
There's a book out there called 23 Minutes in Hell. It's exactly that.
I think was it about a woman, or
it might have been somebody that died, experiencing hell, walking through the thing with demons all around him, and he starts screaming, "Jesus, Jesus, Lord, help me!"
Yeah,
and then he was pulled out of that.
Can I ask
I
a
got chills
question?
even thinking about it.
Yeah, go
And
ahead.
this isn't about hell. It's about dying legally and being revived. Did Papa ever discuss what he experienced when he died?
To me, no, you were there.
He never.
He never he was legally dead for like a couple seconds.
His
No,
heart stopped, but his brain was still functioning. So I mean,
he was. I mean, once your heart stops, like that, they say that your brain is still going for 7 minutes after your heart
yeah,
stops.
I don't think it was 7 minutes. I think he was out for a couple of seconds.
Yeah,
but
he was not dead for that long.
But he still must have. I mean, it's surprising that he's never explained.
He might not have been dead enough to do that. He might have just been on the cusp and not enough. Maybe it was Jesus' way going, you know what? We're going to shock your system here. How do you call that? We're going to restart you. And maybe God goes, you know what?
By the way,
you've been walking in circles for 55
speaking of
years.
shocking and restarting, side note, completely off topic entirely. Whenever you're in my car, do not turn on the AC or anything. It does not work. It makes noises and it's broken.
Wait, hold on. Wait.
It's
I
completely off topic.
I can hear him now. Your whole car doesn't fucking work. What are you talking about?
I'm not going to get into that's a podcast, a whole season.
Well, okay.
Fucking car.
They got security footage where people react to nothing visible on camera. And one of these is a TikTok video I saw. It is a old woman. She's laying in bed, and from what the post reads is she is actively dying.
Yes.
And she's standing there and she's smiling, and you could tell there's nothing behind the eyes. You would think that she's dead, but she's smiling and she's going, ah. And then a second later, done.
Gotcha.
I seen it firsthand. I've seen it firsthand with my uncle. When we went down to visit him in the hospital, he was actively dying, and he was mumbling and looking almost like he was shivering, and then he'd go like this, and he would do it again, and then every so often he was talking he'd say, "Daddy, Daddy." Now, well, my uncle could have been anything.
Don't go into it now. I'd like to assume that he was talking to his father.
And
Jesus
it's
fucking Christ, my guy.
It's kind of ironic in a way, because his whole life railed against his father. He blamed his father for dying at an early age when it wasn't his father's fault. His father was trying to make extra money.
Yeah.
And he blamed his father for how he was.
And he was young when Grandpa Anthony died.
4 years old.
Yeah.
So to me, you rail on the man for his whole life, not even knowing the man.
Mm-hmm.
And I think in his mind, either that gave him satisfaction to justify his lifestyle or what he was going through in life. To more or less say, what's your fault? You weren't there for me. Well, I'm fucking dead.
Yeah.
It wasn't like, look, I'm sure my grandfather didn't choose to die that day.
No.
Okay. So, but I found it ironic sitting there listening to daddy, talk to me, daddy. And then I started thinking back to my grandmother, seeing the spirit in the room. And I said, I got to get the fuck out of here. Because at that point, I'm like, what's going to happen next?
Can I freak you out a little bit more?
Sure.
Because technically, if you were in the room with your grandmother who saw her husband, and you're in the room with your uncle who saw her father,
His father.
his father, you were in the room, if you want to believe it, with your grandfather twice.
And do you want to believe it? And you want to, I can see where you can say that. I can. But what I can't understand about that whole situation is why the dramatics?
What do you mean?
Why the dramatics?
What,
It's almost
him
like
saying-
it's like when somebody says to you, "I had an apparition," and he just stood there and he pointed.
Oh,
The
you're
fuck
talking
is-
about.
You're pointing. What are you pointing at? The
Are-
bagels are over there.
Are
What?
you talking about the person who's dying,
Did
or
he just
the,
ask if the fucking
video?
Any of it. It's
Well,
to me. It's just.
If
It's like.
listen,
Come on now.
if someone's dying, they're out of their. I don't want to say out of control, but they're not in control of what their reactions are.
Mhm.
When they're actively dying, I've never seen someone die in front of me. I don't know what that experience looks like. But I've seen videos, and based off of your experience that you've discussed with Mima and Uncle Pat and any other experiences, they don't have control of their reactions and their, seeing things or whatever. That's completely and utterly wrong.
Oh, I'm not talking about them.
I
I'm
You're
think
talking about the apparitions.
I'm talking
Or
about the
you want these
apparition.
people to fucking pull up a chair and have a cup of coffee.
Yes, I do.
That's not how
They
that works.
haven't been around for a while. They're coming to take some.
well,
They're coming to take their. If you can visit, and you can sit there, and you can, I'm floating in the corner of the room. Do you see me, Teresa? Then why can't you say, you know what? I just brought a dozen bagels. Somebody bring the butter. We're gonna have coffee before I have to go back.
Can I explain something?
That's all I'm asking.
Dickhead.
Why is it so dramatic?
I'll explain it, because
Please do.
for you, or at least in this scenario with the deathbed visions, that apparition is not there for you at all. That apparition is not there. The person who's dying knows why that apparition is there. Mima knew why her husband was there.
Oh, 'cause
I
didn't
swear
see
to
anything.
God, I swear, when I am on my deathbed in however many years, because by the time, hopefully, well, this sounds bad, but when I'm dead,
I'll be long gone.
right, if you come to me on my deathbed holding up the middle finger, I swear to God.
Well, no.
I can just imagine a dad standing there.
If you come to me on my deathbed, you
Come
better
on, fat ass.
No, not that. It better be exactly the way you're explaining it now. It better be, tell me exactly what the fuck. Pull up a fucking chair.
Joey, I have French fries.
Joey, here's a
Just throw
a happy meal.
down. Like, come into the light. Come here.
Ooh, a piece of candy. Ooh, a piece of candy.
I stopped off
Point-
at fucking Checkers, Joe.
That's crazy.
You know what's crazy? I have Uber Eats linked up right now with Checkers on it.
No. They're
Girl.
right around the corner, too. This is crazy.
All right, this is where we're stopping. Up until now, we've been talking about the experiences, apparitions, deathbed visions, the emotional side of death. What happens next is where we break down doctrine, faith, and disagreement. And that deserves its own episodes. Part 2 drops next week.